Hello, everyone. Tina Hogan Grant here with my regular Cuppa A Natter, which I like to do twice a month. I like to bring authors into my home and we talk about books, writing, life as an author, what we're working on, and what we currently have released. And tonight, Carissa Lynch is joining me. How are you doing this evening?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so excited to talk to you. Thank you for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me and congratulations on your release today. I saw you had a new release.
I did. It's been a hectic day. Thank you so much. I did. I was live like an hour and a half ago. I feel like I've been living on the laptop today. You know how that is. But we are here to talk about your book, you, and your life as an author. How everything. I want to know everything. So I'm going to be super nosy for me and the readers that are joining us. And we will take little breaks and take questions from the readers. So those of you that are joining us, again, I'm here with Carissa Lynch. We're going to be talking about her book, The Secrets of Cedar Farm. And if you have any questions for Carissa, go ahead and put them in the comments. And I try to get to as many as I can. I do want to say hello to a few people that are here. Karen is here. Elaine Sapp is here. She raved about your books, by the way. When she found out that I was going to be talking to you, Elaine just raved about your books.
She is amazing. She is just such a supportive author to me, to other supportive reader, to me, and to other authors. She's great. So thank you.
She really is. But I just wanted to let you know that she did. She was raving about you, and I just got a kick out of it. Alicia Haney is here. Darlene Johnson. Rachel Blackburn. I'm sure you know a lot of these people, and we'll pop in and say hi to them again. But Carissa, where are you joining us from?
I am in Indiana, in the southern part of Indiana, which is sort of on the border between Indiana and northern Kentucky.
I love your accent.
Thank you.
I do. I have an accent, but I love your accent. Okay, so your latest book, The Secrets of Cedar Farm, when did that come out?
So it just released this past Saturday and ebook format, and then it will be coming out in audiobook and paperback in a couple months as well.
Can you explain to me that your publisher, does it in steps when it releases the book?
Yes, the particular branch of HarperCollins that I'm with, which is called One More Chapter, they specialize in digital first. So they like to release the book as an ebook first to sort of for that market, and then they follow it up with the paperback and audiobook edition.
Something to look forward to.
Yeah, it is, but I know it's a little unusual because everyone has their different formats, so sometimes they have to wait a little bit longer if they don't read it in ebook. So
yeah, well, anticipation often works. And how long have you been? You have a lot of books. How many books have you published?
The Secrets of Cedar Farm is my 17th book.
Wow.
And I have some short stories and some co-written work that I've done as well. So quite a bit, but I think number 17. I'd have to count, but it's close.
That's fantastic. So how long have you been writing?
Well, I've always enjoyed writing a little bit, like journaling, poetry, all of that when I was growing up. But I didn't write my first novel until about 2012 when I was home on maternity leave. And after that first book, I was just hooked from there. So
2012 is only 9 years ago.
Right.
You've written 17 books plus the other in under 10 years.
Right.
You are a disciplined writer.
Been busy.
You have been do you have a writing, schedule? I mean, do you you must get up and treat this? Well, of course it is your career, but do you have an actual schedule that you follow every day? And do you write 5, 6, 7 days a week?
Well, my schedule's a little unusual because during the daytime, I like to focus on like editing, plotting, or promotional things. But I am a night writer. I write strictly at night, usually after 9 or 10 o'clock. And when I'm working on a project, I'm working on it nonstop. I'm not getting very much sleep. But then once the project is done, I usually take off 2 or 3 months. So I'm not,
Good for you.
I don't usually write every day, but when I am writing a book, I'm working on it nonstop.
You have a child or kids?
Well, I have 3 children. One is in college, and then I have 2 who they are 11 and 8.
So they're at home, but you probably write when they're in bed.
Yes.
Okay, and then of school. I mean, are they homeschooled or are they in school?
They're in school right now, and I guess since they've been little, I've just gotten used to the schedule of writing at night when everyone is asleep, and now I can't seem to break that pattern. That's when fire.
Yeah, it seems to work. 17 books in under 10 years. It's working. Don't change. It's working brilliant. So the latest book, The Secrets of Cedar Farm, I am going to be reading the blurb in about, halfway through our chat. What genre would you consider this book?
I would consider it to be a thriller.
Do you write mainly thrillers?
Yes, I would say usually in the thriller or the suspense genre. It usually.
Okay. And this one specifically, what inspired this book?
Well, I think with all of my books, there's this common theme. I'm just really fascinated with, and particularly women who are fatally flawed. And I think it's really difficult to be a woman in general. But I think when you add extra layers such as addiction, mental health issues, struggles with motherhood. So I think it's sort of along the lines of my other books, in that I really wanted to focus on a female character who is just very, very flawed. An anti-hero who can, sometimes play the hero role, even though they're far from perfect. So that inspired me. And also, I think with addiction, I've been personally touched by addiction. I know so many people have.
Mhm.
And I have a background working in the psychology and addiction field. So it's just,
Oh,
I'm really passionate about it. So it just really came natural to me to write about that topic.
this one I'm inspired to read. I mean, of course I want to read all your books. They look really good. They all do. But this one really struck a note with me because I mentioned to you before we started chatting, my debut novel is about addiction.
Mm-hmm.
And in mine, it's based on true events. I actually live with an addict. And I gave the book, the title of The Flip Side of Addiction. And it's how lives are affected, the loved ones of an addict.
Right.
So you totally can relate to that kind of scenario and the life. I'm sure you come across many women that have been in that situation. And you are so correct that addiction touches so many lives, not just the person that's an addict.
Right.
It's just unbelievable. And, we've constantly had this war on drugs. There's no end to it. I mean, I can't see any way to fix it or slow it down. I just can't. And I'm fascinated by this book.
Well, thank you.
I wanted to ask, is it based on someone you know?
No, I try not to. I try to keep most of my books as fiction. But
Hmm.
as with everything that I write, and I think with most writers, we can't help but bring some of ourselves and some of our. So, of course, I did feel reflections in that from my own life or my own experience as a woman or someone who's been affected by addiction. But I didn't base it on anyone specific. So it is fiction. But of course, there are always traces of me that make their.
Always in every book, And all of your books stand alone, or is there any series?
Most of my books are standalone, but I have written 2 series. I've written a 3-book series called The Floxdale Files, and
Oh,
a 3-book young adult series, the Horror High series.
oh, okay. Do you think there'll be any more in that series, or it's 3 books and that's it?
Yes, those were some of my earlier works. Actually,
Okay.
I sort of started out writing series, and then I've sort of ventured off into sticking standalones because I found that with a series, I would get bored towards the end. I was ready to move on to something new. So I really kind of enjoy working on a standalone. That way I can just switch to a completely different world and a new character when I move on to the next book.
Start fresh. Start fresh. Yeah, I'm on book number 6 of one of my series. I'm like, okay, I'm ready to wrap this up. You know? But I know there's going to be 2 more books, but that's okay. And my problem is all of my books end up being a series. I honestly don't think I can write a standalone.
Right.
My hat's off to you for able to write a book as a standalone and have everything completely, neatly tied off and no questions at the end. And, that's where my problem is because I'll write it, but then I know I've left some like things hanging or not all the questions are answered. And for me, that's really hard to just wrap it up with a neat little bow so the reader has absolutely no questions. And that's what a standalone has to have.
Right.
So my hat's off to you. I'm not sure if I can do that. I always continue on. I'm sorry.
I wish I could series. So hats off to you for that.
So your preference is totally a standalone.
Yes.
Yeah. And how long did it take you to write The Secrets of Cedar Farm? First of all, let's back up. How long ago did you have the idea for this book? And how long did it take you to write it and then get it to the publisher? Is there like a big gap in between when you have an idea for a book?
Usually about 6 months in between. So typically what happens now, since I've been with my publisher for a while, is I will have an idea for a book and I will usually first 100 pages in a pitch, and then my agent will send it off to them and they'll let me know whether they are interested in pursuing it or not. So it was about a year ago, I think, that I originally pitched The Secrets of Cedar Farm. And then once they approved it, I think it took me about four to 5 months to finish it. And then
First draft.
So it wasn't too long. It only took about 4 or 5 months, but it's a book to come out and all the editing. It's just a huge, long process.
Yeah, it's a long process. For me, the editing is what gets me. It's just so tedious. And what I don't like is, as a writer, it takes sometimes some paragraphs take a long time to just, craft it out. And to actually delete chunks of your writing when you know how long it took you to word it, it's like, oh, really? I mean, that really just is a hard one to swallow sometimes. You don't have a copy of The Cedar Farm, do you, on you?
I don't, not yet. Since it's
Okay.
only a book, I don't have the paperback copies yet, but I'm hoping that I'll be getting my author copies sometime in the next month or so.
Okay, I have it here on my phone. I'm going to just bring it up so the readers can see the cover of the book and get a vision of what we are talking about. I just had it, and it just took me into read a sample. Okay, let me see if I can do this. Can we see it? No, it's not there. Please take me to your sample. 1 minute. Give me a minute. It was right there. I want readers to see this cover because I'm going to ask you about it. And Facebook doesn't, Amazon's not, there we go. No. All right. Let me get out of read a sample. Try this again. I really want people to see your cover. Did you have any input in the cover?
They usually present me a few different covers and get my opinion on it, but I just really fell in love with the cover for The Secrets of Cedar Farm. I thought it was, dark, gritty, which really goes along with the story. So I was really happy with it.
I like it, and if Amazon would, cooperate with me, I'll be able to let the readers see it too. Here we go. No. Sorry, I really want to see. Every time I click on the picture, it takes me inside. I'm not sure if you people can see this. It's right there. If you can see it. That's The Secrets of Cedar Farm. But I do love the cover.
Thank you.
I do. I'm sorry. You said that they gave you input of the cover, or you gave them input? I'm sorry. I was messing with Amazon.
Well, usually I feel like my editors who work on the project, they're so familiar with the book, and they go into the cover meetings and speak with the cover artists, so they really have an idea of what they're looking for, and when they go with the designer. And sometimes they'll show me a few different options and get my opinions. But with the Secrets of Cedar Farm, I felt like they nailed it with the first one. So it was the first cover they presented, and I was just really happy with it.
That makes life a lot easier.
Yeah.
With the Secrets, I know it's about addiction. What kind of message do you want? Are you giving the readers, or what do you want them to walk away from after they've read this book? Is there some kind of strong message that you're portraying to the reader throughout the story?
Well, the plot of the story is this woman who has overcome a lot. She's coming out of rehab, and she has lost custody of her daughter, and she has an estranged aunt and uncle who have offered to take over custody. And when she goes to stay with them on their farm, they are resistant to getting her daughter back, basically. And so as she starts to dig deeper, she starts to learn that they're hiding a lot more secrets, basically, on the farm, without giving too much away.
Right.
But I think overall the message would be that, you know, even has struggled with addiction, that they can overcome that, that someone can still be a good mother, that they can still be a redeemable character, despite all of their mistakes. So I really wanted to give this character like an arc where she could redeem herself, because she had really gone through much. So I guess that would just be my message, is that, addiction is a terrible thing, but that people can redeem themselves and they can come back and fix their lives.
That's a great message. They can rise up.
Right.
I like that. I love it. I want to just take a little break and see who else has joined us. And like I said, if you have any questions for Carissa, go ahead and put them in the comments. I would try and get to as many as I can. Here is one from Peggy. Peggy Patterson's joining us. And she says, what made you decide to write the genre you chose?
Well, I think it was an easy decision because my favorite genre to read is the thriller and mystery genre. So I felt like I really gravitated towards that. Now, I love to read widely. I love to read a little bit of everything, fantasy, romance, but thriller has always been my favorite. So when I first sat down to write, it was just that to me. So I think from the very beginning, that's always just been.
Do you think you'll ever try another genre?
Well, I've tried a little bit writing on my own, and it's a lot harder. Yeah, so I have tried, and I do like writing, like for fun, and writing on my own and kind of pushing myself. But I haven't really published anything outside of the thriller genre. Besides, my very first book was like a contemporary women's fiction.
Okay.
So I would like to, but I don't know.
It's like stepping outside of a comfort zone.
It is. It's tough.
Yeah, and you've written 17 books pretty much in the same genre. You know the genre, you know the audience, and you've got a reader's base, obviously. So you know what your readers like. Why change something that's good?
Right.
Hold on, I'm sorry. And as far as authors go, was there someone you said you liked to write when you were younger? Was there an author behind your inspiration, or anyone in your family that loves to read books, or any writers in your book? What inspired your writing?
Well, I grew up in a family of readers, and I always loved to read. For a while, I even toyed with the idea of maybe going to school to be a librarian. So I just always really just fell in love with words and with writing. Now, when I was younger, I loved the Nancy Drew mysteries, and Carolyn Keene was a big inspiration. And I think recently, as I've gotten older, just a lot of female writers in the thriller genre are just really, really inspiring, because I love reading male and female writers, but I'm drawn to writers in this genre.
What I'd like to know is, when do you have time to read?
To read, and I read it any chance I can.
You're a busy lady. How about, I mean, I know your two younger children, you said they were 8 and 7. Are they enjoying reading at an early age?
They do. I have to push them sometimes. Like, come on, your
Yeah.
mom
Hmm.
should be spending more time reading. But they do enjoy reading.
Do they read physical books?
Yes, they
Good.
do. The younger generation, it seems like they're really into the physical copies of books.
I
Uh,
like that, and I hope it stays that way. I really do. I mean, you can't beat a physical book. And your eldest, who's in college, female or male son,
mhm.
has he read your books?
Um, no, he just turned 19. This is his first year. So I always tell my kids, read them when you're older, because you know, I still think of him as a kid,
Yeah. Hmm.
like a baby to me. So this is his first semester at ISU, and he's going to school to be a pilot. So we're really
Wow, proud mama. Is anyone else in your family pilots or aviation?
No, and my husband is terrified of flying. So, I told him he's just going to have to get over it, because our son's going to be flying.
Yeah, that's super exciting.
Mhm.
How about your husband? Has he read any of your books?
He has, and my husband, he is a truck driver, and he loves audiobooks. So if he can listen to them on audio, he's always happy while he's in the truck. So that's how his preferred way to listen. But he's really supportive.
That's excellent. Does he read the finished project, or does he read any of your early drafts before they are finalized?
No, he never reads any of the early drafts. It's usually just after they're out.
After they're out? Yeah, mine's the same way too. I really don't want his input, to be honest. It's my some of it is okay. I mean, he reads it before the final publication, where most of the edits are done. There's not going to be any changes. And if he finds a little error or something, that's fine. But don't ask me to change anything in the story. It's not going to happen.
Right.
It's not going to happen. We're almost there, and it's going live like in a month or two. Karen says, that's awesome. Your husband reads your books. I love when I hear, husbands, partners are supportive of everyone's writing. As far as the marketing goes, I know that you were the publisher. Do they help you with your marketing?
They
Because
they do, and I have a publicist, and they're really good about trying to come up with a marketing plan, and depending on that book, and sort of make a plan in advance. And they're really good about running ads, and they're better at that stuff than I am. And
yeah,
all, and they take care of all that, and I usually just run my social media accounts.
that's good. Because I hear some publishers that do nothing.
Right.
So you are blessed with
Yeah.
the publisher you're with now. Have they published all your books, or is this you have a history with them?
Well, so my first 10 books that I wrote were through like smaller indie publishers. And then I signed with my agent in 2017. And then that's when I signed on with HarperCollins, and they've been publishing my books since.
Congratulations. That's fantastic. Got a question for you about your husband. Told you we're going to be nosy. Does your husband have a favorite book of yours?
Hmm.
Should ask your husband, huh?
Say maybe probably some of my earlier work, the Flockstyle Files.
Okay.
And I don't know if it's just because it was my earliest work and some of the first that he read, but I think
Mhm.
I like the most.
Other than the one that's out now, your latest one, because that's always one that's fresh in our head, and that's the one that is always going to be our favorite, is the one that we just wrote. Is there another one that just kind of sticks with you and you really enjoyed writing it? And if someone was to say, if no one's read you, or which book would I start with first, what would you recommend and why?
I would say I really enjoyed writing Whisper Island. I don't know that I would tell someone to start with that. I might tell someone to start with My Sister is Missing, which was one of my most popular mysteries when I first signed with HarperCollins. But Whisper Island is sort of a locked room mystery, and it's about four different women that go to a deserted island in Alaska, and then people start getting killed off one by one. And I wrote it during the pandemic when I felt like super locked in at home, and it was so much fun, and it was such an escape that I would just say that had to be one of the most enjoyable books that I've written.
Have you been to Alaska?
I haven't. I would love to go, but I had to do a considerable amount of research on Alaska to write it.
I can imagine.
But I would love to go. It's one of those places that I've always wanted.
Yeah, me too. It's on the top of my bucket list. I want to go to Dutch Harbor is where I want to go. And that's where Deadliest Catch was filmed.
Oh, okay.
And I was a commercial fisherwoman for 10 years. And that I am just totally addicted to that show. Even when it's not like a season, I will watch the reruns over and over and over again. So if I ever get to Alaska, it's Dutch Harbor. I have to go to Dutch Harbor. And then I'll write a book about Dutch Harbor. I saw a question that I wanted to ask you. It's about, hold on. When it keeps moving, I lose my questions. Here's one from Renee. How long did it take you to get your first book published?
Okay.
What was the process? Yeah, give us a rundown on the process of getting that first book published.
So I always tell people who are writers, the first book is the worst because, you just don't have a lot. For me, you just don't have a lot of confidence in yourself yet.
Mm-hmm.
So I started writing my first book in 2012, and I wrote it about a little more than halfway through, and then I just gave up on it. And it wasn't until almost a year later when I found it when I was moving, and I read over what I'd written, and I was like, okay, this isn't so bad. Maybe I'll go back and finish it. And to be honest, I didn't know anything about publishing at all when I finished. My sister sort of pressured me to try and get it published, and I didn't know anything about agents, so I just submitted it to all the small independent publishers that I could find that I could send it to. And I think it took about 9 months submitting it before I got some interest from a publisher. But that first book was like a 2-year ordeal because I stopped it, and I think it's just really hard with the first one because you just don't really know what you're doing. At least I didn't know.
Yeah, it's a learning curve. I mean, I'm still learning, and I'm sure you are too. But 9 months is a long time until you hear anything back. But that's how it is in the publishing world. If you want to go with a publisher, you have to, like you said, sending out to everyone you know, and just cross your fingers and hope someone gets back to you. And it happened for you.
Right, it's torture waiting, but it's part of it.
And you were able to send them out to more than one publisher. You were able to send them out to whoever and wait for the responses to come in.
Right.
Which is good. What kind of advice would you give to someone that's looking to go the publisher route, not self-publish? They have their first manuscript ready to go. What kind of advice would you give them?
Well, I've done indie publishing, and then I've done, the larger traditional with the agent publishing, and there's benefits to both. I think that there's major advantages to having an agent. For me, once I started out, once I brought my agent on board, she really helped me get a better deal and get signed on with a better publisher. So I would recommend, if you want to be with a large publisher, that it's best to try and query agents first before they approach publishers. However, being with a smaller independent publisher that doesn't require an agent is kind of nice too, because you get that more at home vibe, and
it's more personal.
Yeah, and you don't have to compete with all the big, Stephen King, all the big names.
Right.
they have more time to promote you sometimes. So I would suggest just really looking into which avenue works best for them. And then if they're going to go the larger publisher route, I would definitely look into trying to get an agent first because they have the
And
capital.
I'm assuming the agents specialize in genres. So if you write horror, if you write science fiction or thrillers, you would want to find an agent for that genre. Agents don't pretty much cover all genres.
No, most agents have a specific, like,
Field.
what they're looking for. Now, my agent doesn't just do thrillers; she does several different genres. But it's always good to get on that agent's website and look and see what they're specifically looking for, and if it matches up with what you're writing.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, exciting. Leisha has a question for you, and of course, you just disappeared. This is about you writing, and she's asking, when you're writing, do you like it to be quiet, or do you like to listen to music while you write?
So I am totally, and I really need it to be quiet, which is probably one of the reasons why I like writing at night, is because it's
Ah,
and I can control my environment a little bit. However, I listen to music and do things before I start writing. Like, I like to get revved up and get in the mood. But when I actually sit down and I start typing, I like silence.
silence. And how long do you writing? How long do you sit down and write for? Is it a long period of time? Do you take breaks?
I would say maybe 4 or 5 hours at a
That's
time.
a long time.
Yeah, and I'll take breaks, as needed. But
Right. And when it comes to, some people call it writer's block, some people call it just whatever. How do you handle that? If it's just the words aren't just coming or the story is not flowing, do you try and fight through it and continue to write, or do you just walk away?
Um, I guess it depends on if I'm on a specific deadline and I feel like, okay, I need to push through and try to go, then I might try to push. But usually if I'm stuck on something, for me, the solution is always to take some time and do some reading. I love to just say, you know what, I'm gonna go look for inspiration. I love to read, and not always in thriller genre. Sometimes I think there's a lot to gain from other genres as well.
True.
For me, that can really help sort of jumpstart me just to sit down and get in someone else's writing and head for a while.
There you go. Do you plot your books?
I usually, um, I don't plot them all the way through. I'm sort of a midway plotter because the problem with plotting a book all the way through is I never follow it.
Yeah. Okay. Me too.
Try to plot sections of it, but I just can't trust myself. My characters go off and do what they want.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah. Do you pretty much know the ending before, when you start a book, you pretty much have the ending in your head, how it's going to end, or does that come to you later too?
Sometimes I do, and sometimes I don't. I usually have a few different options for the ending, and I kind of like to have, a few different alternatives of different directions that it could go. But I usually have an idea of how it's going to end before I.
Okay. Well, I'm going to take a few minutes. I want to read the blurb to your latest book, The Secrets of Cedar Farm. So I'm going to read that. And this is the one we were talking about that deals with addiction, which really has inspired me to read this book. So give me a few minutes. I have it right here on the page. Yay, Amazon's community. Okay, here we go. Nora Campbell was an addict. The loss of her fiance drove her to despair. She lost custody of her daughter, Gemma, and control of her life. Now Nora is in recovery and she wants Gemma back. But to do so, she must move in with her eccentric aunt and uncle. And they refuse to give up control without a fight. When strange occurrences keep happening at the farm and Nora makes a gruesome discovery, she soon realizes she's living with a monster. As her mental health spirals out of control and she is tempted to relapse, she begins to wonder if she is also a monster. Ooh, and I do want to read at the bottom. It says, this is a novel about addiction and recovery. and the strength of a mother who must fight in order to save herself and her child. Did you have any input on the blurb?
I wrote most of the blurb,
Oh, okay.
and then my editor tweaked it. She tweaked it.
Right. That's what editors are for.
Yes, that particular blurb. Now, sometimes they change around the blurb a lot, but that particular one they didn't. Not a whole
That's
lot.
one of the for me, that's the hardest part of writing a book, is the blurb, because you have to condense, whether it be 300 pages into 200 plus words without giving anything away, but draw the reader in.
Right.
And for me, it is the hard. I write my blurbs, and I've had input with people to write my blurbs, but the people that offer to help write my, no offense to anybody, have not read the book.
Right.
So they're not hitting those points. And they don't have time to read a whole book to write a blurb. So I found for me, it's easier just if I write the blurb, I know the book, I know, where to draw the reader in, but it's still the part I hate about what is there a part, I mean, we love to write, we love sharing our stories. Is there a part on your process of writing that you just like, ugh?
Well, I'm with you, and blurb is tough, and usually it's gotten a little bit easier for me because since I've signed with my agent, she wants to see the blurb before the book is done. So usually I've had to get better at getting more comfortable.
That's hard.
So that's also think the hardest part is always the beginning. It's that first like 10 to 15,000 words. You just got to get the right flow going.
I agree.
Sometimes it might take me longer to write the first 10,000 words does the next 30, because it's just so hard to get going at first, to get that character's voice.
I agree. And your books are written in third person. I mean, I've not read your books yet, but I will be. Are they mostly written, most of them, or all of them written in third person?
I think most of them are written in first person.
Oh, okay. Okay. That's unusual.
Yeah.
That's especially all of them. I like that because I like reading in first person. It puts me more into the book.
It does me too. When I'm writing, it's easier for me to sort of write from that point of view.
I prefer writing in first, but I do both. But my favorite is first person. So I was quite surprised for that answer. Here is a comment from Tina. Can't wait to check out your book. Sounds very interesting. The blurb has me wanting to read it. It did its job. And then she also wrote, I read chapter 1 and 2 and a half of 2. Sounds great so far.
Thank you.
They do sound really good. Okay, so when you're not reading, you're not writing, what other hobbies do you have just to break away from the everyday life of an author?
One thing I love to do with family is we like to go boating, and we like so anything that sort of allows us to be lazy, but it's also a little sporty. That's something that I can definitely go for. I like to read on the boat and coast along in the water and let the kids do all the swimming and all that.
Right. Do you go boating on the lake or the ocean? How about fishing?
The
I was a fisherwoman, so I got to ask these questions.
I grew up on a lake, so I'm a huge fan of fishing. But when your kids are small, fishing, it's not as fun because you have to help them the whole time with their. So I do love to fish, but it's more stressful when you have to help.
It is when you are the deckhand and the aide. Yeah, I agree. My husband and I are both commercial fishermen. Oh, we got to go fishing on your boat, but that was our job. That was our career. It's not a day off when we got to take you fishing. But I do miss it. I mean, I don't go fishing as often as I'd like to because I live up in the mountains, about 5,000 feet. So the ocean is about 2 hours away. We have a boat, but we used to live on the boat, spend our life on the ocean. So I do miss it. So I envy you.
Know that about you, though. That's intriguing.
I absolutely loved commercial fishing. It was a brilliant time of my life, but it's also a really, really hard way to make a living. Really hard. But yeah, I do miss it. We go pleasure boating, but it's not. I did lobster fishing. We pulled 300 traps a day,
Oh my.
but you were just constantly doing something on the boat, and that's what I loved about it. I could never be a sailor. You just sit on the boat and just move the jig around and the mast, and that's not for me. I have to be physically doing something on the boat, and that's what I liked about it. I really did. I have an interesting question here from Kathy I wanted to put up. She asks, where'd it go? Come on, Kathy. There we go. How do you decide when to end a chapter and to begin the next one?
For me, I always like to end the chapter where there's something exciting going, but you're leaving the reader a little bit of tension, but you want to chapter. So sometimes I have trouble breaking up, and sometimes my editor might have to adjust, like where I stop in my chapters. But sometimes I think it's just a natural break in the story when you come to a part where
Mhm.
something big is happening. This is a good conclusion or a good part to stop. And I'm really big on usually writing short chapters. I don't know why. I just really enjoy kind of short and
I'm a favorite for those too. Number one, I read more for whatever reason. If it's a short chapter book, I tend to read more because I'll go, oh, one more chapter. It's only a few pages, one more chapter. And before you know it, you've read 10 more chapters. And I think it's a great way to get readers totally engrossed in your book. And whether it be too, if the book is not engrossed, getting my attention, if I'm starting to count the pages in a chapter, it's telling me that either the chapter's too long or just not engaged in the book enough. And I don't do that with short chapter books. I just keep going,
right.
you know. Yeah, I love short chapter books, and that's what I write. So I'm glad to hear that. Um, Here is a question from Dana. I'm going through some questions now while we're come on. There we go. Do you make sure you write so many words in a day on your next book? In a day on your next book? The one, I guess the one you're working on now.
Usually I try to write at least in 1,000 and 3,000 words a day when I'm writing a deadline. Like I'm really big on to organize on my calendar. Like if I write 2,000 words every day for 3 months, then I will be done. So if I'm on a try to keep it around 1 to 3,000 words because that's manageable for me.
That's a good goal. I try to do 1,000.
Yeah.
So that is a good goal. And then what I tend to do too, because I also work outside the home. I wish I could, like you, sit down all night and write. I would love to do that. But I try and set a goal of 1,000 words, but I'll break it up. If I can get 200 words in the morning, then I'll finish, the other 800 when I get home. But my day's not over until those 1,000 words are written. I'm very disciplined on myself for doing that because my first book, I mean, it was an idea in my head for 20 years, but it took another 3 years to actually write. And I told myself, I can't, if I want to, write a few books, I cannot take 3 years to write a book. So since that first book came out, is when I disciplined myself to write 1,000 words a day. And I just tell myself my day's not over with. If I, have 900 words at 11 o'clock, well, okay, then you got 100 words to write right before you go to bed.
Really good strategy.
You have to discipline yourself, otherwise the books just don't get written. And I commend you on disciplining yourself. Do you split up from writing and marketing? I mean, I know you do your social, but you say you're at nighttime, you do the writing, and you mentioned during the day is when you do your marketing. I guess that would be your social media.
Yeah, if I have social media or if I need to do editing, responding to emails, everything, all the non-writing writing stuff I do during the day. But I try to save the evenings. That's just me and the computer just working on
And
stories.
the house is quiet. Can you give us any insights on what you're working now? Don't give anything away.
Well, I'm right now I'm working on another law room mystery, and it's called The Bachelorette Party, and
You have a title.
it takes place in New Orleans, and it's about a group of women who take a celebratory trip to New Orleans, and as usual in a thriller, start to fall lots of secrets and lies and drama. So it's really fun. I love writing the locked room mysteries.
It sounds like a good one. What inspired this one?
Well, actually talked with my editor about doing another locked room mystery because I've had, a lot of success with Whisper Island, which was a locked room mystery. And I've always loved New Orleans. It's one of my favorite places in the country, and it just seemed like the perfect location. And I wanted it to be like a fun party event. And I thought, what could be better than I didn't want to deal with a baby shower. So I thought, what would be women with a bachelorette party? They can get wild. So
Sounds good. And do you have a release date for this one yet? You do.
it will be out in this September. So
This year.
yes, so I'm working to get that finished and into the hands of my editor so it can go into editing.
That's not far away. You must. Okay, we're into February, starting tomorrow. You have a release date scheduled for September. When does the pressure start building up? I mean,
Now,
now.
there's now. So I need to have everything turned in by the very beginning of May so that we can get all the editing complete. So the next few months are going to be really, really busy just wrapping up the story.
And how about the cover? I mean, that hasn't started yet, has it? Or has it?
It hasn't, but they're so fast. I never know, so as far as I know, they could already be working on the cover. They're so speedy on that stuff. So,
And then you'll just get a notice. Here it is.
yeah.
Talking about pressure, I just wanted to put this up from Lisa. Do you find it hard to keep up with demand from your publishers?
Well, I used to think that sometimes the publishing process itself can be so slow that sometimes it would almost be like, I finish a book and then I have to wait a year before is sold. But now that I'm sort of in good standing and I'm signed on with this publisher, the pace is picking up, and I do feel that pressure more. But I tend to write better when I'm under pressure. So I'm like, bring it on.
I'm the opposite. I tend to, if I'm under pressure, I just have to just walk away and do, even though I'm under pressure for deadlines, I have to walk away for like 2 days and just regroup, go kayaking, just away from my surroundings of books and writing, and come back with a clear head. How you work under pressure and write better is like, wow. But that's what you're used to. That's what gets you motivated.
Right. Yeah, it works for some reason. I'm
impressed. Okay, so when your editor has your book, you're done with your part, they're not editing it. You said you take a break for a couple of months. Is that correct? Or do you go right into a new book?
I like to take a break for a couple to, clear my head, do a lot of reading, and start thinking about my next idea. So if I can get 2 or 3 months of time off in between there, that's really good for me because it kind of helps me reset before I launch into the next thing.
That's a good pattern, a good schedule. Yeah, definitely. Wow. Well, I'm excited. I want to talk a little bit more about the Whisper Island.
Okay.
Because you explained to me before we went to chat and to the readers too that you don't have any copies of your latest book and you want to give away a copy of the Whisper Island.
Yes.
So what I am going to do, they're going to get a double treat. We have about 10 more minutes. I am going to read the blurb.
Okay.
I like the blurb on this one too. I mean, and you told us about um, how you had to do a lot of research for Alaska because you've never been.
Hmm.
What part of Alaska does this take place in?
Well, it takes place in on a fictional island called Whisper, which is near the Bering Sea. So it is a fictional location, but there are islands that are similar that I researched in Alaska, but I did keep it fictional, which makes it a little bit easier. So I didn't have to make
Yes,
sure.
it's your island, your rules, your whatever. That's what I like about fiction. But I do want to read this blurb, and you're going to be giving away a signed paperback, correct? Ooh. All right, let me read this. This came out when?
In It came out in November of 2020. Is that right? No, no, no. It came out in 2021, and then the paperback is just now hitting U.S. stores this past November. So it's still fairly new, as it's just now out in paperback.
That's like a big book. How many pages is that?
I think about 400 pages.
That's
It
a big book.
actually
And that took you the same amount of time, 3 to 4 months to write?
did. This one I wrote during the pandemic, so I was in lockdown.
Okay, that's right. Yeah. Okay. All right, let me read the blurb to this one. This sounds intriguing. It was the perfect escape until one by one they vanished. Four friends, Riley, Sam, Maya, and Scarlett, their trip to Whisper Island, Alaska, was meant to be a once in a lifetime adventure. Just four young women with everything to live for. But as soon as they arrive, things start to go wrong. First, there is the unexpected arrival of Sammy's drug addict brother and his girlfriend Opal. Why are they here? And then the deaths begin. As the dream trip quickly turns into a nightmare, suspicion is high. Are they really alone on the island, or is there a killer hiding in the shadows? And as each of the girls reveals a dark secret of their own, perhaps the truth is the killer is closer than they think, just a whisper away. I like that blurb. Did you write that one too?
I wrote parts of it, and then other parts my editor helped me write.
Very intriguing. And the cover, let me see the cover of that one. Now, okay. Did they hit it on the nail for you on that one? They nail it for you on that one?
They did. I really loved the cover for that one because it just has that sort of spooky, foggy island vibe, which really fits with the atmosphere in the story.
Wow, exciting. Well, I'm intrigued to read your books. I am. I saw a question here. Oh well, it's gone. It's gone. So, anyways, the giveaway. I'm going to be announcing it tonight at 8 o'clock. After I fed my doggies and everything like that. Now, you can either pick the winner or I can go ahead and pick it for you. It's entirely up to you.
I guess if you don't mind picking it,
I don't mind at all.
I feel so guilty, you know?
No, no. The reason why I don't mind is because I explained earlier is that we see all the readers right now going live in one funnel, but after the live is ended, all the readers split up to wherever they were watching it from. If they're watching it on my author page, if they're watching it in my group or on YouTube, then you have to go to each portal to see who is watching to pick a winner, which I don't mind doing. But for someone that, is not regularly on my page or, in my group, then it's a lot easier if I do it. But what I would do is tag you.
Okay.
Okay. But this has been a fascinating conversation. I'm trying to think. I wanted to ask you about, you said you've never been to Alaska. What places have you been to that you've enjoyed that you think you might be writing a book on? Is there any places you visited that you have in the back of your mind that I'm going to write a book set in that area?
Well, right now, like I told you earlier, I'm writing the book about New Orleans, and
Mhm.
that I really, really enjoyed going. Uh, I've lived in Indiana my entire life. now I haven't left the country too much, but I have been to Costa Rica. So that's another place that I would really love to write about because it's just a beautiful sort of exotic place there. So that's somewhere in the back of my mind I would really like to.
That'd be a good place for a thriller. And you've never been?
So I've been to Costa Rica one time. So
Oh, okay. Okay, so you have the background. Okay.
I would love to.
That sounds interesting. Well, I really, really enjoyed having you. This has been a blast. Your books sound fantastic. Congratulations on your success. You are bestseller, USA bestseller, and what was the other one? You best.
Journal.
Congratulations. Well deserved. Well deserved. And is there any last words you want to say before we close out?
I just wanted to say thank you to all my readers, and I couldn't do it without your all support. And I appreciate you, Tina. Congratulations on your new release. I can't.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And all of Carissa's links are in the text of the post. So be sure to follow her on Instagram, Twitter, and you have a website?
Yes.
Great. All right. Okay, everybody. Thank you so much. Oh, one other thing. I do give away $5 on these chats. The way you get to be entered is if you go to my author page and share this video. So share the video from my author page and tag me on your share, and you'll be entered to win a $5 Amazon gift card. Got to get the word out there. There we go.
Nice.
Yeah. So thank you everyone for joining us this evening, and thank you, Carissa. This has been a lot of fun, and I will tag you when the winner's announced.
Sounds great. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. Good night, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.